can you talk about gender expression versus gender identity?
Yeah. So how this is, and to be clear, I do not identify as trans. I am cisgendered. I have done a lot of work with individuals who identify as trans. So that is where I would speak from. How I understand it is gender identity is how I internally identify. Gender expression is what I show the rest of the world. And those two things could be different. I might internally identify as female or non-binary, but externally identify as or express myself as a man, use he, him pronouns, dress in male clothes. So sometimes there's incongruence, and that might come from, again, fear, anxiety, acceptance. I might be early in my exploration of identity. There's a number of reasons why identity and expression might not be one and the same. For people who are non-binary, one day their expression might lean more towards a feminine side. Another day it might be towards masculine. Sometimes people will blend the two together. So expression is what you see on the outside. Identity, how I understand this, is what is internally, how I see myself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to normalize, too, that everyone, regardless of where they are on the gender spectrum, and all of us are on the gender spectrum, have that gender identity and also have gender expression, right? Like, so, for instance, I'm female identified, right? My expression of my gender looks different. Right now, for those that can't see me, I'm wearing a jumpsuit and I have makeup on. These are traditionally very, like, feminine things according to mainstream society, right? So today I am playing up my gender expression. However, if you caught me yesterday at work, and don't tell the bosses, but I was wearing a hoodie and jeans, right? Not too long ago, like this was in like the 1960s, Mary Tyler Moore made like a splash on television when she wore pants, because that was like a radical thing to do, because that wearing pants was not part of typical gender expression for female identified folks. So that's the thing, like gender expression changes and it often relates to what are the norms of the culture. But all of us are doing that gender expression all the time, and it shifts within us all the time too, right? I think the difference is that folks who are trans-identified are often othered. And so, like, the experience of being in relation to one's gender identity and gender expression is, like, put under a microscope in a way that it's not for folks who are cis-identified. And cis means same. So, like, where your gender matches your God, it's so fraught, because here's the thing is that like sexuality or sexual body, like our bodies, is like way more complicated, we know now, than it is before. So there's not just like male or female bodied individuals. There's like a whole spectrum. So help me out here.
So I identify as a cis male. When I was born, I was assigned the gender male at birth based on my physical genitalia. As an adult now, I identify gender as being male, and I express myself as male. Those things all line up. So that is why I identify as a cisgendered male. For someone who, if, let's say, for me again, if I was born as a male and based on my genitalia assigned as a male, but as I grow up, identify as a female or someone who is non-binary and express myself as female or gender fluid, those things are not matching up. So that would fall more into under the trans gender umbrella. So cis, how I understand it, means everything matches up. It's congruent.
Right.
Trans means there's an incongruence between what happens at birth, what you are assigned at birth, and how you see yourself and how you express yourself. That is the easiest way that I understand it.
Yeah. And even that, like our bodies, we're understanding more and more that even that is on a spectrum, right? So like intersex people are real. Yeah. And it goes beyond just like what chromosomes or what our bodies have. I mean, and that's why it's like important, because a lot of this is like how we as a society are like making sense of like what it means to be like a person, just to like be a human.
And I think that's one of the things that is important to remember is that my truth is just for me, and everyone else's truth is theirs. And so it's not my place to define somebody else's sexuality, orientation, or gender identity. It's everyone's right to love who they want to love, to identify how they want to be identified. And, I think it's all of our responsibilities to just be respectful and to treat each other with kindness without getting too hung up on trying to figure out what box I need to put you in.
Right.
And I think that's where we get tripped up sometimes. The reality is that our language is limiting and it doesn't adequately fit where we need it to for the very reasons that Mary Ellen just said. We're continuing to expand our understanding of sexuality, gender. We just have to do the best we can. And whenever I meet someone who gives me a gender identity that I don't fully understand, the easiest thing for me to do is just ask. There was a time when I came out, again, it was in the late 80s, early 90s, the term non-binary was not in our vernacular. That doesn't mean that those individuals didn't exist. It just meant that we didn't have terminology to adequately describe those individuals' experiences. And as our terminology continues to expand to more adequately help understand the experiences of these individuals, we're going to struggle with trying to figure out how to talk to one another. I think two things. One, we have to give each other grace. And we also have to be respectful. When people ask me questions about what it's like to be gay, I try and answer them in a kind way. One of the questions I used to get all the time is, when I was in a relationship, well, who's the man and who's the woman? I cannot tell you how many times I heard that. If it's coming from a place of genuine understanding, I'll take the time to make that an educational moment. If it's coming from a place where it feels like this is just being really judgmental, I'll walk away. And so I think it's okay for people to genuinely ask when it's coming from an opportunity to learn and to try and understand. This is my perspective. I use this as an opportunity to educate, because that is how we create understanding for people that are not familiar with our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And going off of that, I think even though it would be easy for me to stay closeted and be with all the privileges of a heteronormative relationship that I exist in, I go above and beyond to speak about bisexuality, right? Because I choose to do that because I know that I have protective factors in place that allow for me to do that. Making that choice around education or making choices about how you interact with folks who are putting your sexuality or putting your gender under a microscope. It's okay to not go there also, right? So it's both it's okay to do what John does or what I do, and it's also okay to be I'm not going to go there right now, and I'm going to make a different choice.
Yeah.
There is a very strong presence here of LGBTQ identified individuals for sure. I think we often know who we are, but we're not really kind of a unified force. And I know that you're not asking that wasn't your question, but I think it's important to start within the community first. I think we're looking for more opportunities to be able to connect and have more spaces to be public. And I think Family and Children's Services participating in the Pride Parade is really wonderful. And I think it's a really wonderful first step, and that we as mental health professionals especially can really work hard to make more opportunities for us to be present and out in Tulsa.
Always room to grow.
Yes.
I think we're kind of in that middle ground. And there's, so let me back up. I think in terms of being a gay person, I have found that there is a difference between tolerance acceptance, embracing, and celebrating.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, okay, you can live next door to me and we're not going to give you any problems, versus embracing or celebrating, which is the recognition that our community has a lot to offer. It is a very vibrant, colorful, rich community with history dating back all the way to World War II. It is fun. It has all kinds of art that can be valued and contributed to society. And there are some communities throughout our country that recognize that, embrace it, and celebrate it. Then there are others that outright reject it. And then there are others that don't necessarily value it, but we're not going to kick you out. And I'm also going to kind of break this up. I think in terms of the LGB community, it's not too bad. I think for our trans community, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done.